Pregame.com.
Thursday night, NFL football, the Philadelphia Eagles travel to the Seattle Seahawks. I'm Marco D'Angelo. I'm joined by Brian Leonard. Brian, boy, we've got some great games we've had this year on Sunday Night Football.
I was going to say that myself between this and the Monday Night Football game.
These are some gems, but it actually brings up an interesting point. And, you and I have been around a long time. We don't like to admit how long we've been around, but we're getting to a point of the season, and I'm sure you adjust in your handicapping. I know I do. You're at a point where you've got to start looking at some teams differently because the season's over for them. Mm-hmm. And, whatever phrase you want to use, towel tossers or whatever, it becomes a factor. How do you view this team going into a certain game? And I got to feel that, I know everybody keeps saying, last week was the final straw, but Philadelphia, they don't have any life left. I mean, after they got blown out by New England, they're 4-7. This season's got to be toast.
Yeah, in fact, I just read an article where they said, "Oh, we're still alive. We're still alive." I said, "You've been dead for a few weeks now. You just didn't know it." I mean, they're going without this week. Vic's not playing. Rogers Cromartie's not playing. Macklin's not playing. There's a reason why they're not playing. Is they don't want to get these guys hurt in these meaningless games because at this point, I mean, if you're a Philadelphia Eagle and you make all these signings in the offseason, you think you're going to the Super Bowl. You're not even going to make the playoffs. Yeah.
The dream team turned into a nightmare.
Right.
And we'll see. And it's funny that one's playing on Thursday and the other one's playing on Monday night. But I'd like to start a poll, and maybe that could be a thread in the forums. Who gets fired first, Reed or Turner?
You got to fire Turner. Reed's had such a good track record, though. He's done very well in the past, but you can't fire a guy after one bad year. I mean, but it is Philadelphia.
They booed Santa Claus.
That's right. That's
right. When I look at a game like this, Brian, coming in, and I'm a situational type guy, this play was screaming to me for Seattle. I mean, I was considering this was going to be a big play for me, and I was ready to, jump all over them. But the fact that Philadelphia is dead in the water, now you'd say, okay, that makes things better. I should want Seattle even more. Short week, playing at home, all of that. But when you are a team that's out of it, you've got nothing to play for. We always talk about, like in college football, we'll say this is their bowl game or this is their playoff game. If a team's going to show up, there's going to be two type of games that they're going to show up for. National TV, I'm talking about teams that are dead. National TV, or if you're playing one of your hated rivals and you've got the opportunity to screw them out of the playoffs. So here we are with a team that's playing on national TV. Now it's the NFL Network, but it's the only game. So does Philadelphia, does this enough to get them motivated?
I believe they've played 5 games on national TV. They're 2-3 straight up, 2-3 against the spread. Now, the good thing about Philadelphia is they're out of Philadelphia for this game. And if you followed them since Andy Reid's been there, they're a much better team on the road. 19-12 against the spread away from home, actually 3-2 against the spread away from home this year. So if there's one role, and I like to pick out roles that teams are going to excel in, this would normally be the good role for Philadelphia. But another role that Philadelphia's been good in over the years is divisional games. Mm-hmm. And Andy Reid's been very good in divisional games. Not so good outside of the division. This year, they're 1-6 straight up and against the spread outside of the division. And if you go back to last year, they're now 1-10 against the spread outside of the division, only 2-9 straight up. And they've actually played pretty decent in the division, as they normally do this year. Most of their better wins have been against the Giants, in the teams in their conference. So
Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys. So this is a team, it's very similar to what we've seen in the past from Philadelphia. So even though they play better on the road, this is a non-divisional game. And, to be honest with you, who's going to be more excited about this game being on national TV? As I said, this is actually the 5th national TV game for the Eagles. It's the first for the Seahawks. This is a big deal for the Seahawks.
Absolutely. And Pete Carroll's one of those guys that, I don't want to use the metaphor that he's a college rah-rah guy, because he is a college rah-rah coach, and he can get a team pumped up like that. And Seattle as bad as they are, they're 4-7. They're 3-2 against the spread at home. Their trademark has been they play better at home than they play on the road. Going back to the roles of Philadelphia, now this goes way back, and I pulled this out of the computer data banks, but this goes all the way back to 1992. But Philadelphia, for whatever reason, against NFC West opponents, and let's give it, the last several years, the West has been pretty soft, so that might have a lot to do with it. They're 29-14, though, against the spread against the NFC West.
Well, two things. First off, in 1992, you were still old. But you talked about Seattle at home, and it's a long-going thing. They're 32-19-1 against the spread at home. Mm-hmm. And one thing I do a lot with first half, second halves, more first halves. But Seattle's permitted 7 or fewer points in the first half in 5 of their last 6 games. Now, they've been a team that hasn't scored a lot in the first half, but I like that stat because that means they haven't been falling behind. Mm-hmm. And in a game where Philadelphia normally is the first team to score, last year they were tremendous. They had that prop on who will be the first team to score. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia was great at that because they always took the ball first. They still do. They're just not scoring as often as they have. Mm-hmm. But Philadelphia is more of a first half team. We've seen how they've fallen in the second half. Yeah. So if Seattle can keep this game close in the first half, Seattle's got a big advantage in the second half. And based on the way they played as of late defensively, I think they can do that. So I like Seattle in this game.
Well, I like Seattle too. And like I said, this would have been a bigger play for me. I don't think it's going to make my card, but I do agree with you. I lean to the Seattle side plus the points. This Philadelphia team, when you count them out, like you said, they play a good game, but ironically, that good game was against a division opponent, each time. So we've got two things different. They're playing a non-division game, but they are playing it on the Thursday night, which, when I've done videos with RJ, on these Thursday night games, it's a huge disadvantage for the road team on a Thursday night game. Yeah. And it's more, and the one thing I point out to RJ, and it was the one week whenever it was San Diego playing, I forget who they were playing, but it was a division game.
San Diego. I predict they lost that game.
You're good. They did. And the road team won that night. And the one thing that I pointed out to RJ is I said, yeah, Oakland's the road team that night, but it's a division game. It's easier to prepare for a division opponent because you see them 2 times a year and you know what you're doing. So that shorter week doesn't affect you as much as Philadelphia doesn't see Seattle all the time. So it makes it even tougher to go on the road and prepare for an opponent you're not familiar with. So I agree with you. I've got Seattle. You've got Seattle for, we'll make that the first play. You got co-host free plays on this one with Seattle. Now, one thing I want to mention, it's Thursday. Each and every Thursday here at pregame, what we do is we isolate a capper that's on a hot streak, and we offer their best bet that night for $1. So on Thursday this week, you can check out Greg Shaker. Greg Shaker's had a good NFL season. He is off to a smoking start in college basketball. You can pick up his best bet on Thursday for just $1. So just go to pregamepros.com. You'll be able to see that play on Thursday for $1. Pick that up. He's Brian Leonard. I'm Marco D'Angelo. We're going to be right back. We're going to take a look. Friday night, championship game, UCLA and Oregon. A championship game. I hear the spread's big. We'll be right back and take a look at that one.